Welcome back to Guess with Geeta. Today we have writers and editors. What are your guys' names?
I'm Thomas.
And I'm Allie.
And say which one is the writer and the editor.
I'm the writer.
I'm the editor.
Okay, so our first question is for you. How do you decide on topics to write about?
So there's a lot of stuff going on at South. Personally, I write more news and feature stories. So it's a lot of advisory announcements or stuff that people hear about, even just around the newsroom mostly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's generally it.
What's your process? So how do you figure out your information and put it into a story and or just out there?
Well, most of it comes down to how easy my interviews were and how a lot of people, when you say you want to do an interview with them, haven't been interviewed before. Let's put it that way.
Have you guys been interviewed before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they don't really want to give up quotable information, things that I could easily put into a story. So a lot of it comes down to how easy the interview and how successful the interview was.
That makes sense.
But that's mostly it, yeah.
So what's your process like? Do you edit his stuff or other? So how do you you take his stuff and you're oh, it's terrible, or how?
Yeah.
Yeah, she looks at the dumpster fire. That's my writing.
No, Thomas. So every reporter has their strengths and their weaknesses, and it's kind of my job to figure out what those are and help them get the best story out of it. So Thomas, for example, he generally has a good length and a good writing style. Mm-hmm. But a lot of my job is just working on the APA format and making sure everything is uniform and the way that it should be presented for news, because that is what we specialize in. We are a newspaper. Yeah. For some reporters, I help them schedule their interviews or write emails, but my whole entire job as an editor is just to help reporters make the best story that they can. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So how do you mainly you? How do you decide if it's publishable or not? Because obviously he's coming up with a story and then you're finalizing it. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. So what I look for in a story generally is the style of the writer, the grammar, the readability, and the interest, and then also what graphics we have. Because we are a student newspaper, we do end up publishing pretty much every story that gets written, mm-hmm. Whether that be in the physical newspaper or online. But in terms of what we determine as our headliner or our stronger stories, it really comes down to how easy it's going to be for other people to read it and how much interest they're going to have while reading it. Mm-hmm. So for example, for our next issue, we're planning on headlining a prom story, just because it's going to be coming out at the end of April when prom is, and I feel it is one of the things that students have a lot of interest in. But really any story with any writer can be a strong story as long as they know how to engage the audience.
There's obviously wanting it to be publishable, and mm-hmm. How do you determine if your information is 100% accurate? Because there's obviously dates that are set, but other stuff going around the school. How do you figure that out, and do you fact check that, or
Well, you should never be writing a story on rumors that you hear around the school, I guess. Mm-hmm. Everything I personally write on is more verified school events.
Okay.
My first story was about writing about the coffee cart, Saxon Smart Brew. And it's more, verifying your information should come from just checking your source. I mean, if you interviewed them, you should probably know that they're trustworthy. Mm-hmm. But also just, always screen the people that you're going to interview, think about it.
Yeah.
So when I'm working with a reporter, because I work with them throughout the whole process of writing their story, I see where they get their sources from, and I'm able to understand whether or not they're credible. Mm-hmm. So usually in post, when I'm working on final edits, I don't really have to worry about that type of stuff. But we always have resources like the advisor, Mr. Erickson, or teachers, or just even the school website. Mm-hmm. It's always a good resource for school events. So that's generally what we do. Yeah.
Thank you. It was really interesting to hear your guys' process. That's all the time that we have for now. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next one.
Thank you.